Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing a list where I detail the fastest player on every MLB team currently. My standards for consideration are going to be as such. A player had to have had at least 50 competitive runs in 2025, so as to exclude exceptionally small outlier samples. The player also has to be projected to get at least a meaningful amount of time on the roster in 2026 for whatever team he's being considered for. So fringe, quad A players don't really apply here. We're going to be going in accordance with alphabetical order today, starting with the Angels and Bryce Teodosio, who in his limited time in 2025 registered an average sprint speed of 29.9 feet per second, just below what's considered a bolt per StatCast of 30.0, a downright elite speed. These wheels helped him to post 7 stolen bases and a ridiculous fielding run value of 9 in his rookie season, despite appearing in just 50 games in the outfield. Next up for the Astros, we have shortstop Jeremy Pena, with an average of 29.6 feet per second. Pena, who's coming off of a breakout all-star top 10 MVP finishing season, has parlayed these exceptional wheels into a career base running value of 11, one of the best marks in the entire sport since he made his debut in 2022, along with back-to-back 20 stolen base seasons, while getting caught just twice in 2025, giving him one of the best success rates among guys who managed to swipe that many bags. The A's have their spot occupied by somebody very similar to Teodosio, with Denzel Clark and his 29.5 feet per second average allowing him to somehow post 11 fielding runs in just 47 games. That's a full season pace of around 35, which if he could actually throw that up in 2026 would break the all-time major league record. All of this coming in his rookie season. He also managed to steal 6 bags without being caught. Our fourth team is the Toronto Blue Jays, with them housing one real outlier on their major league roster, being Miles Straw and his 29.4 feet per second average sprint speed, a number that's almost a foot better than the next closest in Ernie Clement. This has allowed Straw, through just 699 career games, to swipe 101 bags, while only being caught 17 times, and much like many of the other outfielders on this list, posts some extremely impressive numbers with a glove, with 38 career fielding runs tallied in that somewhat limited time as well. The Braves have a deceptively quick inclusion of their own here, with veteran Eli White, who is set to turn 32 this season, somehow still having 99th percentile wheels at 29.9 feet per second on average in 2025. The biggest issue for him has always been that he can't steal his way to first base, with a career OPS plus of 69. Though this was somewhat better in this past year, when in the most plate appearances he'd ever registered, he managed to post a mark of 88, while adding 10 swipes, 3 triples, and an impressive advanced performance in both base running runs with 2 and fielding runs with 4. As you'd expect with a team like the Brewers, they have quite a few notably fast players, with 5 separate guys being above the 85th percentile in sprint speed in 2025. Though their absolute fastest, Brandon Lockridge, is going to be left out of consideration for this, even though he has tied for the 3rd best sprint speed in the entire sport at 30.1 feet per second, as he's not, according to Fangraphs, projected to make their opening day roster, with a couple other guys in front of him on the depth chart. As such, we turn to the next fastest, being Jackson Chourio at 29.2 feet per second. Still elite, though not quite as mind-blowing. His quickness has helped him to swipe 43 bases in his first 2 years in the bigs, with 8 fielding runs and 7 base running runs. The Cardinals bring with them a player who's tied for the 2nd fastest sprint speed in the entire sport, in Victor Scott II, who averaged a blazing 30.2 feet per second in 2025, giving him certified outlier burner status, and he used these greased up wheels to perhaps the maximum effect he could in terms of raw stats, putting up a 94th percentile base running run value of 5, a 96th percentile fielding run value of 12, and 34 steals to just 4 caught stealing. The Cubs have yet another player who's elite defensively in part because of his speed, while also putting up quite a few stolen bases as well, though Pete Crow Armstrong also adds some notable thump to go along with his 29.5 feet per second average. I don't, however, want to underplay how downright elite his glove work was in 2025, with him registering 21 fielding runs as well as breaking the all-time record for 5-star catches in a season. The dude has somehow posted 38 fielding runs through just 2,400 innings in the field, on top of tallying 64 stolen bases to just 13 caught stealings. The Diamondbacks arguably have the best player we've looked at so far on an overall basis, with Corbin Carroll and his 29.8 feet per second average sprint speed ranking him in the 98th percentile, and this has certainly helped him in terms of value on the bases. You see, since he made his full season debut back in 2023, he has somehow managed to post 34 base running runs, a number that is 10 ahead of the next closest in Elly De La Cruz. This certainly shows up in stolen bases, with 121 registered over this time, but it's his triples totals that are even more notable, as he's led his league in each of the last 3 years, including last season, when he posted a ridiculous 17. And yeah, it's also been helpful in the field, with him posting 13 FRV over the last 2 years. For all the things the Dodgers have going for them in 2026, and believe me, They are many. There's one area that they're somewhat lacking in, and that's average sprint speed, as they did not have a single player last season that ranked above the 85th percentile, with their absolute fastest being Korean import Haesung Kim at 28.5 feet per second. The young lefty, who only got 170 plate appearances, did what he could with his legs in this time, ranking second on his team in base running runs with 2 and swiping 13 bases while only being caught once. For those wondering where Shohei Ohtani ranked, he was 4th overall on his squad at 28.0 feet per second. The Giants are similar to the Dodgers in that they don't have a very fast squad in general, though, unlike LA, they do have someone who has outlier characteristics in terms of their legs, in second baseman Tyler Fitzgerald, who averaged a 97th percentile sprint speed last season of 29.6 feet per second. He hasn't really used these to post gaudy results as of now, though he still has managed a solid 28 stolen bases through his first 178 big league games, to go along with 4 base running runs. The Guardians certainly are not a very fast team in general, with only one guy being above 28 feet per second on their sprint speed, but that one player is Jose Ramirez, who makes up for lack of metric speed, with only a 28.4 mark in 2025, with some of the most ridiculous base running production in recent seasons. With his 38 base running runs since he made his full season debut in 2016, having him ranked for the 4th best in all of baseball. He's also managed 287 stolen bases, with him registering a career high 44 in this past year, his second straight with over 40. The Mariners allow us to break back into the 90th percentile in terms of wheels, as Julio Rodriguez averaged 29.2 feet per second in 2025. Since he made his debut 4 years ago, he has racked up 116 stolen bases, having him ranked 6th overall in the big leagues. Not bad for a guy who's also ranked in the top 20 in home runs and 7th overall in total value per BWAR, as well as putting up a fielding run value of 32 in this span, making him one of the best center fielders in the game defensively. The Marlins have one of the more surprising leaders in their average sprint speed, as I'm sure if you ask their fan base, most of them would probably expect Xavier Edwards or even rookie Jacob Marcy to be here. But instead, this title goes to Connor Norby, who played the majority of his games at third base last year with an average sprint speed of 28.8 feet per second. This did not translate into anything very tangible though, with him posting just 8 steals and 10 tries, and exactly 0 base running runs. The Mets actually traded their fastest player this offseason in Luis Angel Acuna, leaving the next guy up as Tyrone Taylor. And he certainly was no slouch himself, with the mark of 29.3 feet per second translating into 3 base running runs in just 113 games. It hasn't, however, managed to show up in stolen base totals at any point in his 7-year career, as he's never gotten more than the 12 he managed last season. As more of a glove-first guy, he's parlayed these wheels into a career-high 8 fielding run value in 2025. For those curious, the guy that Acuna was traded for, Robert, would be right behind him at 29.0. Another player that projects as his team's 4th outfielder is defensive wizard Jacob Young for the Washington Nationals, who in his first 2,500 big league innings has somehow managed to post 36 fielding runs, a mark in the top 15 in the league despite being the only player with less than 2,500 innings played. In this equivalent of roughly about 2 seasons worth of action, he's also notched 61 steals, albeit with a below average 74% success rate. The Orioles are another one of those rare teams whose quickest guy is somebody who plays the hot corner, with Jordan Westburg, who's more so known for his hit tool and raw pop, taking the title here with a 29.0 feet per second average, a number in nearly the 90th percentile. However, much like his former teammate Norby, this has not showed up between the lines, with 0 base running runs and just 11 stolen bases through his first 2.5 seasons. Fernando Tatis Jr. manages to just eke out Jackson Merrill for the Padres' fastest base runner at 28.6 feet per second, helping him to register his first 30 stolen base season last year with 32, as well as being one of the few players in the entire sport who managed to reach 92nd percentile totals or better in batting runs, base running runs, and fielding runs. As a team with a deserved reputation as being somewhat of an old folks home, the Phillies are actually one of the fastest teams we'll look at today, at least in terms of their upper tier speed. Their best, Trey Turner, was actually the fastest overall runner in the sport last season at 30.3 feet per second. Turner actually holds the MLB record for base running runs since he came into the league at 62, as well as being one of just 4 active players with over 300 steals, despite him being by far the youngest at 32 years old. Next up is a player with some of the loudest tools in the game, who still hasn't quite managed to put it all together. In O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates. Even if 2025 didn't go according to plan in terms of his numbers at the plate, he was indeed utilizing his 29.2 feet per second average wheels to post 4 fielding runs in center, to go along with the 95th percentile base running run value of 5, and a tie atop the National League leaderboard in stolen bases at 38. If he can legit bat around 240, we could be looking at one of the best 5-tool players in the entire sport. In the last 2 seasons since his ridiculous debut month and postseason performance in 2023, Evan Carter hasn't managed to do much with the Rangers in terms of his bat, but with his legs, he's been decidedly better, not only being their fastest runner with a 90th percentile sprint speed of 29.0 feet per second in 2025, but also by swiping 14 bases through 63 games, while putting up 3 fielding runs in center, despite only appearing in that abbreviated sample. Perhaps nobody in the entire sport prior to their debut last season was as hyped as Tampa Bay Ray Chandler Simpson in terms of his wheels, and he proved it was for good reason, not only running at a 29.6 feet per second sprint speed, but also by translating this into some of the best stats of the year, with 7 base running runs being tallied through just his first 109 games, with 44 swipes to go along with them. The Red Sox 2 fastest players last year were Nate Eaton and David Hamilton, who averaged 29.7 and 29.3 feet per second respectively. However, neither are going to play for them in 2026. So we have to default to our first tie atop a team's leaderboard, with both Ceddanne Rafaela and Jarren Duran coming in at 29.1. For Rafaela, the biggest effect was in the field, where he established himself as the best center fielder in the American League, with 22 fielding runs, and for Duran it came more so on the bases, with his 7 base running runs having him tied for 4th in the entire sport to go along with 24 swiped bases and a league-leading 13 triples. The Reds probably have the most surprising upset at the top of their leaderboard today, as Elly De La Cruz saw his sprint speed fall so far last year, he actually placed 3rd on his own team at 29.1. having him just behind Matt McLain at 29.2 and Will Benson at 29.3. But here's the thing, this is going to be the only instance today where I actively override this ranking to select a different player, because Elly was dealing with a quad injury for much of last year, a malady that I'm sure not only sapped his raw speed, but his production overall on the bases, as he went from 67 swipes in 2024 to just 37 last year, and from 10 triples to 7, even if his overall base running run value per StatCast was actually marginally better. He will, barring any kind of injury concerns, be the fastest player on this team in 2026, and I think he can take that to the bank. Former Arizona outfielder Jake McCarthy is going to be our selection for the Rockies, as he averaged nearly 30 feet per second last year at 29.9, having him in the 99th percentile league-wide. This did not, however, translate into any kind of production on the stat sheet, as the veteran outfielder managed just 6 stolen bases, 1 base running run, and 2 fielding runs. This was an aberration, though, in his career to this point, as in the prior 3 seasons, despite typically appearing in less than 120 games, he swiped no less than 23 bags, with 15 total triples and 14 base running runs. Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals is not only the fastest player on his team, but in the American League in general, tied atop the leaderboard in 2025 with the guy we'll discuss in a second, at 30.2 feet per second. And he's taken full advantage of his outlier tools in his time in the big leagues, as the 34 triples he's registered in his first 4 years are not only the second most in the sport in that time, but actually somehow have him ranked in the top 20 among active players, despite being one of only 2 guys under the age of 28 on the list. Keep in mind, he's 25. On top of this, his 28 base running runs over that span are ranked 2nd in the entire sport to just Corbin Carroll, who was also the guy in front of him on the triples leaderboard. And he's also averaged about 40 stolen bases per full season played. The Tigers bring us back down to earth with their center fielder Parker Meadows, who averaged 29.0 feet per second in what amounted to an injury-shortened season in 2025, with some pretty unimpressive production both overall and with his legs in general, as in 58 games he stole just 4 bases, put up 0 base running runs, and a fielding run value of 2, which might sound good until you realize that he doubled that in less innings back in 2023. And we're right back into downright ridiculous territory with the Twins and Byron Buxton, who not only managed to play in his most games since 2017 last year, but did so while averaging 30.2 feet per second on his sprint speed, a number tied with the aforementioned Witt for the best in the American League. As you'd probably expect based on his reputation, the base running was off the charts, with him swiping 24 bases without getting caught even a single time, registering a career-high 7 triples, and a career-high tying 8 base running runs. In fact, the only real surprising development was that his fielding saw a decline from upper tier to just simply above average, an intentional tactic that may be part of him trying to stay healthy on a game-to-game basis at this point. The White Sox are one of the few teams who have a new player that immediately slots in as their quickest, with the switch hitting Luis Angel Acuna having a 29.6 sprint speed last season. And while yes, I'm sure many Mets fans are going to comment how useless this was considering he was downright unplayable in the batter's box, it certainly did help him on the bases in his relatively limited playing time, as despite getting just 193 total plate appearances, he swiped 16 bags while only being caught once to go along with 4 base running runs. We round out our video with the Yankees and one of our slower selections on the day, as Jason Dominguez led his team last season in average sprint speed at 28.7 feet per second, a number in the 84th percentile. And before any angry New York fans comment, Jose Caballero, he was indeed considered about half a foot slower. Jason used these wheels both effectively and ineffectively in different ways, performing well on the bases with 23 swipes and 2 base running runs, but very poorly in the outfield, where he was one of the worst players in the entire sport with -9 fielding run value in left, a position that's seen as pretty easy relatively speaking. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.